Hey everyone, in this video I will be showcasing all the entries into the NCSO challenge for Roller Coaster and Friends. You can view the full rules in the description below. Before we begin, I wanted to say that everyone did a great job. We have many different skill levels as a community. This entrant took an approach at a basic frontier style park in a large spruce valley. Where this is very basic, it still has some great features, such as the terraforming and the river with waterfall. There are two prominent coasters which flow with the landscape very well. Here at RCF, we want to encourage everyone to participate. We have community rankings. Even if you are not very skilled, you still will get points for participating. In this entry, there are two dueling coasters. Even though they seem to be haphazard, it brings a fun vibe to the park. A few creative concepts here with the buildings, even though they're very basic. If you haven't already done so, make sure to come and join us on Discord. Come join in our community events. Also, if you haven't already done so, I really do appreciate the support. If you can make sure to subscribe and select that bell icon down below to be notified of new videos, I would be very appreciative. So this entry was themed around a medieval English castle. So there's a traditional moat surrounding it, and the castle has multiple courtyards with a lot of fun coasters. There's even a splash boat ride in the moat itself. At the entrance, you have a few modern buildings to welcome guests to the park, and then a resounding, fun wooden roller coaster. The entrance and structure built around the coaster sits well with the entire ride. However, you do have another coaster that is the complete opposite when it comes to the theming, but the entire entry does work very well. One creative mark I wanted to mention was the glass tunnels under the water for the coaster track. Even though this entry feels like it was thrown together really quickly, it has some really creative areas. Areas such as the clouds built above the coaster in the back and the celebrations or the anniversary area. However, I think my favorite part was the wooden roller coaster and the foliage and terraforming around it. So I'm not really sure what kind of fort this is supposed to be, but it feels like a frontier style entry. The only real complaint I have about this entry is the foliage, as it seems very spammed. However, there are many positives about this entry. The coaster in the back is a fun addition and the whole feel for the park feels spot on. I really enjoy the log flume and how it interacts with the landscaping around it. It's really cool to see how far Lemmy has come. This was his first completed project. He was ambitious with his project and used a lot of techniques, such as the track and texture roof on the coaster station. I also found it clever that he has a sign in the corner showing park expansion in the future. The only thing I would say is off about this entry is the odd use of the raised monorail so high above the lake. Now this entry is really cool. This reminds me of a movie called The Mummy Returns. There's a scene there that the train runs by a canal, and that is exactly what this makes me think of. The creative use of both the Egyptian and Roman theming was executed well. My favorite part is the expedition area with the scaffoldings around the coaster. This reminds me of all the fun times I had as a kid at my local fun center. It's a small park but brings back a lot of nostalgia. The architecture is basic but classic. The coasters are exactly what you would find in a fun center. All the tent roof scenery really boosts the vibe as well. A great addition I wanted to point out was the arcade that was constructed. This entry is awesome. A lot of work and time was put into the terraforming, and the synchronized coasters flow through the map flawlessly. There are many areas throughout the park that have small clusters of scenery bringing the entire entry together. The only real complaint I would have is the town at the entrance has some rather large buildings that seem out of proportion. Wild West is always a great way to go with RCT, but this one boasts some great concepts. The use of track architecture creates for a very unique experience. One creative concept I wanted to point out was the use of the Rapids track to create water tanks. The pink coaster is also a very fun addition. I wanted to also point out the use of the candy drop scenery as rocks. There is, however, a few spots on this park that feel unfinished. This entry prominently displays a large white roller coaster that flows through the mountainside. The landscaping is impeccable and the wooden coaster is also impressive. A creative concept used was the use of the Goliath sign on the cutting it up with the tile inspector. There are also a few unconventional rides such as the lizard crawl through the mountain. This entry is clean cut. It's impressive in many ways as there's a lot of cool tricks used throughout the park. If I could, I would visit this park in real life. The talent and execution behind this is clearly present. I really enjoy the rapids area, how it gets cut off as if there's more to see. They took a risky approach using the redwood tree object, however they actually made it work. This nature reserve hosts an extravagant Midwestern shopping center and plaza. The wooden coaster is also impressive and incredibly large. There is also some early execution of track architecture from this entrant as well, and I feel he did a good job at it. The only complaint I have is the foliage seems a little bit spammed.
The fact they were able to pull off a circus tent using NCSO is impressive to say the least, but the rest of the entry flaunts excellent craftsmanship. The terraforming on the outskirts brings the entire park into one fluid event. The detailing on the buildings is executed with finesse, but I have to point out again that circus tent as it catches your eye and is amazing to say the least. At the end of the day, this was a solid win for this challenge. This park has so many great qualities I wouldn't even be able to talk about them all. How every ride flows with each other is impressive. I have to point out the Rapids ride and the creative use for the monorail tracks as edging. That coaster is lovely as well, as is everything else about this map, from the foliage to the rides to the extremely clever use of scenery objects.